Welcome to the Executive Committee meeting of Peninsula Clean Energy. My name is Marty Medina, I'm the Vice Chair, and I will be filling in today for our Chair, Don Colson. First wanted to start off by saying happy birthday. I understand it's your birthday today, Brianna, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So
Roll call.
roll call, please.
All right, when I call your jurisdiction, please state your name. San Mateo County,
Dave Pine.
San Mateo County,
Randy Allen.
Atherton, Brisbane,
Colleen Mackin.
Burlingame. We'll circle back. Menlo Park,
That's Nash.
Millbrae,
Porto. Oh,
I believe Anders is here, but he's
okay.
out of the room at the moment.
circle back.
Portola Valley
Jeff House.
and San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Looks like, is there anybody interested in public comment?
I don't think so. Is there anyone in the public online?
We have no members of the public online.
Okay, so action to set the agenda.
So move. Second.
Moved by Alves and Pine.
We go roll call. If Donna's not here. If Donna's not here, then, okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Gonna go ahead and go to the chair report. I have nothing really to discuss other than welcome everybody. Moving on, CEO report.
I do not have a CEO report this week. Apologies, I've been out with COVID. However, I'll just say on balance, things are going very well. Do appreciate all of your patience through the HR issue that we've been dealing with. And so we can have a report out on that later if necessary. And I will have a full CEO report at the board meeting at the end of this month. Thank you.
Excellent. Moving on to our next item on the agenda. Yes, recommend to Board of Directors approval of staff proposal to move forward with development of an in-house contact center.
Great, and I will just kick it off, thank you, Marty, by introducing Leslie Brown. You all know her very well as our Director of Town Services. Leslie's joined today by Stephanie Elmore. Stephanie was brought on as a contract consultant. She's got decades of experience in call center implementation and management. And so she's been helping us design the implementation that will be presented to you today. You might recall that this came up at the November board retreat. And this is our opportunity to come back first to executive committee, and then hopefully, if it is your pleasure, then we will move it to the full board at the end of this month. So with that, I'll turn it over to Leslie.
Great, thank you so much. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to introduce Stephanie, which Sean did just briefly, talk a little bit about our contact center solution. So the current state of affairs and what our new proposal is, the staffing proposal that we have that Nick previewed a little bit earlier in the earlier meeting, some of the peer agency analysis we did, the financial impact, our timeline for implementation, and then our recommendation. So to get started, let's Stephanie introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I am Stephanie Elmore. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from New York. I've lived in California for about 2 years now. I do have over a decade of experience within call center management with a focus in escalations and customer service. I've been able to support call centers throughout New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Virginia. I've supervised and trained. I've done quality assurance, everything within the call center environment. I have aided in the development of 2 call centers within my career. The first being with my employer who I was with for over 7 years when we were acquired by a larger corporation. Our footprint expanded to Texas, so we had to go and develop out that call center. And then the last with my previous employer, where we purchased 12 brick and mortar offices, and we were bringing a call center in-house to support all of those offices. Within that role, I had to help upper management create SOPs and training, and we hired our remote staff that would be able to support all of those locations. And with that, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to being able to help PCNE bring in their in-house contact center and execute it beyond everybody's expectations. That's it.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. So want to highlight, we've seen this before. This is where we started about a year ago. Rockwell and I sat down and had a conversation to sort of look at what we were looking at for the service level and how we were going to execute on being able to serve all these various programs. Some of these players have changed on the program side, but the elements are still the same. So we have our contact center right now that is serviced with as a third-party provider with Calpine. Calpine's our data manager, as you all know, who does our billing operations. And then they provide, as part of that contract, a call center function. And those folks are reps who really are just there to answer sort of some basic questions about the bills, help people if they want to opt up, manage and opt out, or try to from opting out, ideally. But as far as doing more advanced service around our programs and implementation, it's really sort of out of scope for what they do. And so in order to successfully deliver on all of these other partners and to sort of more closely align on what PCE's trying to deliver for folks, that's where we sort of had that sort of realization that we needed to really rethink how we were approaching this and think about bringing those services in-house. So again, just a current sort of service environment here. We've got phone calls coming in. In Contact is the IVR platform that Calpine has implemented. So that's that front end sort of computer platform that answers those calls with the phone tree options, and then transfer you eventually to a service rep. So the ECC, which is Energy Choice California, it is a dedicated operation serving Calpine's clients' contact centers, but they are, you know, sort of 2 steps removed from us as far as employees and being able to reach and contact them. So there's challenges, you know, with that model when it comes to wanting to provide more direct coaching, you know, on their what they want to do, what we need them to do if we find that there's an issue or a problem. Getting that feedback loop is just not there for us, and so we have some challenges with this model as far as trying to provide a more comprehensive service. And then you know, really highlight in terms of the escalation. So when a call can't be resolved in that first sort of contact with the ECC call center, tickets are created, you know, that escalate out. They have to go through our Calpine rep, they get forwarded to us or the programs team. We, you know, then get back to the customer, resolve them, but it's usually at minimum 1 to 2 day resolution in that scenario, which is not a great experience if you're trying to get a quick answer for a problem, or if you're just trying to do something like check your rebate status for an application. That's not a great scenario. So that's what we're starting with right now, and then turn it over to Stephanie to talk a little bit more about what the new solution can look like.
Okay, so when we're looking at this, it's important to realize that we are keeping the infrastructure exactly the same. We are not going to be reinventing the wheel. We will continue to use the current infrastructure IVR that Calpine currently uses in Contact for PCE and their other CCA clients. This way, it will allow us to ensure that when we do transition over, it will be smooth and successful. It also is in line with what other 2 peer agencies did when they transitioned over to their in-house contact center. When we look here, our customers will continue to call the 800 number and get the in contact IVR. The third step is where the change will actually happen, as they'll start to get an in-house CSR who will be able to assist them and answer all their calls. Calpine has assured us that all our calls will be able to remain on the platform and we'll be able to access them whenever needed. some key features that we'll now have access to now that we can use and contact ourselves is live monitoring, which is huge within a call center. We're gonna be able to hear the calls as they're actually happening and hear what our customers are saying and hear our agents themselves. Another one is barging in, which sounds a lot harsher than what it really is, I promise. It's actually more like merging into a live call with an agent, but the agent is the only person who can hear you. The customer cannot hear the person who barged in to assist the call. That is actually used a lot of times within training, which I've done myself, where you're able to coach their agent through the call if they have any questions or they just need a little bit of reassurance with certain issues. It's also can be used if for whatever reason we have an escalation, we're able to take the call over from the agent without having the customer be placed on hold or anything of that nature. We'll also have the ability to hold calls within like the last 24 hours, which is also great for quality assurance reasons. Another factor that is important to keep in mind is that when we do go to this, ECC will no longer be our backup queue, which is okay. Our peer agencies actually have done the same exact thing and they've been successful with that as well. With many of the benefits with going in-house, one that we'll see immediately is that our customers will have an enhanced and seamless customer service experience because they'll be dealing with us directly. Our contact center will be a one-stop shop, so they'll be able to answer basic billing questions. They'll be able to answer questions that are relative to PCE specific programmings as well. And they'll have, the last one is improved quality control and immediate feedback, as our customers can ask questions and we'll be able to hear the voice of our customers, like what their needs are, what their concerns are, and address them right then and there. Next slide, there we go, is the new service escalation SaaS ecosystem. Our new ecosystem follows more of escalation system. It follows more of a customer-focused, customer-centric approach, like the last service ecosystem. The first few steps remain exactly the same because we're not changing the infrastructure. Our third step again is where the change happens as the CSRs, the in-house CSRs will be taking the calls. And as I mentioned before, our agents will have the ability to address inquiry-related PCE specific questions and allow them to resolve those issues on the initial call instead of having customers having to wait for an answer like for a day or two. Our goal here is to provide a more streamlined and effective process for our customers and to make it as seamless as possible. So we have an example of over the last year where having an in-house contact center would probably be it would help solve an issue or a problem that we have. So as we know, we have the home upgrade program, which has been very successful and is managed by a third party who assists with scheduling in-person assessments. Currently, when a customer calls to reschedule their installation or to confirm an appointment, or if they just are asking to like leave a note, they want to come to like the back door or whatever it is, the ECC representatives are not able to see any of that information. They're also not able to contact our third-party vendor. What they actually have to do is go ahead and create a call slip for a PCE staff member to follow up, which immediately causes a delay in the situation. So with our new escalation process, our CSRs will be able to view appointments and transfer customers to the third-party vendor. PCE employees currently can sign into Salesforce, which will allow them to see appointments and provide customers with the information that they'll need for whatever their issue may be. We'll also be able to cancel or reschedule any appointments, helping the customers again as their need is happening. When we are unable to help with that issue, what we can do is actually contact our third-party vendor ourselves and help the customer. What that will be done in a process called a warm transfer. And warm transferring is like when we've all called a company and we have been bounced around from agent to agent or department to department, or even worse, like if a call drops, in each scenario, we've had to repeat ourselves, and it just makes you extremely frustrating instead of that agent transferring you directly. So what we'll do is, I'm sorry, so being with that, the current escalation process with Calpine, the warm transfer is missing from their process. They can't, they have no contact with them. So with our new process, we actually are going to be adding that into our process and warm transferring our customers over to our third-party vendor. We'll make sure that they know our customers' information, they know the reason for their call, and we'll introduce them to the representative before just transferring them over. And that immediately builds trust and like gives a great rapport with our customers, which is what we're looking to do. Absolutely.
So when the call comes into the IVR,
Mhm.
is it the IVR software or is it a third-party software that makes the decision about what agent the call gets transferred to?
It's within the IVR, however, we will be able to work with Calpine to make the decisions as far as the prompts that the customers can choose.
So
they can be
will we be
modified.
subcontracting in contact from Calpine?
No.
No, it's, yeah, so part of this arrangement will be that Calpine will still maintain that relationship within contacts, but they're still going to have all of the infrastructure housed, they've built it all out, already for their clients. We're just going to leverage that, we're just gonna get sort of our own little, right now we have a little trunk of that's siphoned off over to ECC. They're basically gonna switch it over and have it come to our staff directly.
And will it be able to make distinctions between different staff or will it just take whoever's open?
So the way that the queue, we've seen a little bit of the back end of it, Stephanie, we're gonna do some more training on it. But there is there's a series of, like you've got your agents in the lineup. There's logic for like if someone picks another language, right? Like, so if they're Spanish, they want it in Spanish. We have a Spanish rep that's online, like that call would go to that Spanish rep, right? But
to make those changes and as we get more specific about what options we want the IVR to manage,
yeah,
does that have to go through Calpine?
it would just go through Calpine, yeah, we would go through Calpine and then they would do the development programming for it with the system, yeah.
And then when the call comes to our agent, when it needs to be transferred to a partner,
Mhm.
when you say it's a warm transfer, will the caller remain on the line and the call will actually be transferred, or will we give them the phone number and then they'll
No,
call?
we're not we will literally merge the calls together. That's what we don't wanna do. We wanna be able to introduce them, let them know that we have someone on the line, and make sure that their issue is going to be resolved.
So those calls will generally, I would assume, just go into that partner's
Yeah,
recipient number. It's probably not a call center at that.
it might be, it depends on the partner, and it depends on what the call is. So if we're, like Franklin Energy has its own sort of IVR system, and call queue activity, that happens. And so we would be calling into that system with the customer to then transfer the call over. Unless we have, some sort of, end up getting some sort of like back end. But I don't think that's what we're looking at right now, yeah.
And how many CSRs will we have?
Our proposal is for 3 agents and a manager, so for 4 staff total right now.
Okay.
So proposed staffing, we are proposing to have 3 full-time customer service representatives. Initially, we will have to start. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll move ahead,
Oh.
we kind of addressed it already.
Okay.
Yeah, so like three CSRs is what we're looking at proposal, and bilingual CSR staff. For sure, minimum 1 Spanish speaking staff. Mandarin's a second party language for us based off of our assessments of language preferences for our service territory. Ideally, we'd like to have more bilingual staff, but we're committed to at least minimum 1 bilingual Spanish CSR staff. And we're gonna recruit primarily, we're gonna emphasize recruitment within our service territory. We may not be able to recruit everyone in our service territories, but we'll have priority for folks that are in our service territory.
Here are some examples of some topics that we would like to go over in training. This is not the final list by no means, but we definitely want to be able to go over topics such as like the history of PCE, who we are, why we do what we do. We want to be able to go over the billing in depth so that our customers will be able to have all their questions answered when they call in about their specific bill. So our agents will be able to know rate schedules and how to look into that and everything of that nature. Opting out and retention is going to be a large focus. So we want to make sure we're able to retain those people who may be calling in to opt out. But when they do get our agents, we're able to explain to them the benefits of us and why they don't want to do so. Contact center etiquette is another just a topic to like brush over, make sure our agents are on par with all of our expectations. And also just have them really know our programs in and out. So whatever programs are coming in, it'll be continuous learning. So as programs come along, all our agents will be knowledgeable on everything that is coming in. I think that about covers it. Yes.
One suggestion in the
Absolutely.
training that comes up all the time are rate plans. And that is a massive confusion where customers even have called PG&E for advice and they end up just going, I don't understand.
Right.
So I think we need to deal with that. 'Cause
Absolutely.
We're gonna get more of those.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. That will be definitely added. Yes.
What are the hours of the?
So as of right now, we haven't really gone over any changes. So I know right now our normal hours are 8 to 5. But if there's a need or a request to have something like change, it's definitely something we can review to see if we can make those changes happen. Yes, Monday through Friday, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when we did a presentation last week to the CAC, there was a request by the CAC to consider like some evening hours or some Saturday time. I talked with Stephanie about that. She thought, at some point, if maybe in the future, if we want to bring on like a part-time staff, we could have a part-timer that covered some of those off hours. But so that's something we would definitely look at going forward.
Will this or could this support like live chat or texting?
So thank you for that question. So we have been looking at some other tools to support sort of this infrastructure. And one of them that we looked at last week is actually an extension of what the IT department is using is getting up right now for some IT management. And that particular tool does have a live chat function that looked really interesting that we could integrate into the website. So it's definitely something we're looking at. May or may not launch with that right away, but would like to bring that on. Yeah. Yes.
Looking at the slides you had there on the multilingual piece, it sounds like you're committed to at least one Spanish speaking representative.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the second one, I think based on the percentage of the county, 17% of our population speaks Spanish, 9.3% speaks Chinese, 6.1% speaks Tagalog. So perhaps we can go down based on the population that we try to serve.
That's the intent. And also looking at our translation called stats. So we have stats from the our current platform of CS service. We do have a live translation service that's available for our current CSRs. We would still continue that now. So if someone called in with a language we didn't speak, we can patch in a live translator for that. Spanish is definitely the highest on that list. So more than half the translated calls that we take right now are Spanish. Chinese, Russian, other languages, show up much lower on that list. But yeah, Spanish is definitely the highest other language of folks that are calling in, which is why we're committed to at least one bilingual Spanish speaker.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to get at was perhaps in terms of that implementation, we can look at the list of percentages based on the language being spoken at home in the county. And then at the same time, certainly the finance as well, taking all that into account. And I'm pretty sure those customer service representative who speak those specific languages would also speak English.
Yes, oh, for sure, yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought that.
And the next one on the list after Spanish is Mandarin.
Yes, the next one after is Mandarin, yeah. So just a little bit of an overview, we did some analysis for peer agencies that have transitioned to an in-house contact center. MCE is one that has gone a little bit further than the rest, where they actually built out their own CRM and IVR platform that they're hosting and supporting internally, as well as bringing in all the agents in-house. They've had really great success, with bringing their agents in-house. They've had some really marketed drops in their opt-out calls. So folks that are calling to opt out, they've been able to sort of reverse those by like 40%, which is great. They have a different service base than we do, and a little bit different situation with opt-outs, but still is promising to note, is that something that we'll be able to address more tightly when it's in-house. Clean Power SF has transitioned as well. They have their staff as part of their larger SFPUC contact center, but there's a few agents that are dedicated to CPSF calls. And then Sonoma Clean Power has right now like a real hybrid approach. So they've got a few in-house CSRs, but they still have 2 backup agents with ECC that are on all the time. And but they're wanting to move away from having those backup ECC agents. It's not working out exactly the way they wanted to. They'd rather just bring everything in-house. And so that's one of the things we looked at when we were looking at, should we continue to have a backup, with ECC, and Sonoma was like, no, just cut it off. Like, it's not worth it. So, and so that's why we're moving forward without that backup option as a proposal, is that it should be a lot cleaner to transition over with our own staff. It's also more economically beneficial to not have to pay for that backup staff. And then, so what are we talking about in terms of financial impact? So because we're leveraging the platform and technology that Calpine's already built out for us, and that is already essentially exists within our service costs, with Calpine, we're just essentially bringing on new staff to replace some of the staff that Calpine has already sort of factored into our costs with them. And so looking at these, the numbers here, based off of conversations we had with other CCAs that had, taken these steps forward, did some estimates on what the benefits were and the actual cost of those platforms. So currently, our annual cost essentially for that ECC service and the IVR system, we estimate about $336,000. Like, that's that cost that Calpine's absorbing, within our regular monthly fee to them. So if we remove this call center staff from Calpine, we bring in our own staff here, which we're estimating about $500,000 a year, which is inclusive of salary and benefits. We don't have to pay anything extra for that IVR system. It's already sort of included there. What we do need to pay for, though, is any use of the translation service. So right now, those costs are just absorbed, by Calpine. But if we would need to pay those directly on a monthly basis, and we estimate that that'd be about $6,000 a year, based off of us being able to handle majority of the Spanish calls internally, but still need that service for backup for other languages that we don't have on staff. And so the net new cost we're looking at is about $350,000 annually is our rough projection here. And it's really staffing. And then our timeline here, so we've got a timeline of going to the board this month, ideally, for sort of a blessing of approval to move forward with this, to really move forward in the next fiscal year. Transition Stephanie here to our new contact center manager in July. We're excited to have her. We're very lucky we found her. And then progress with hiring staff in August and September, and training them up ideally to take over those calls starting in November. We really want to transfer the platform over so it's in-house in November, ahead of the new year. So that's our timeline here. And again, so our recommendation here is that that you folks support us moving forward with this plan to the board and overall bringing this function in-house for PCE so we can better support our customer experience and advance our decarbonization program goals.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, that's it.
It sounds like a great idea. The biggest concern I would have is the staffing and being able to find staff, which I know you pointed out in the report. You actually, I assume you feel confident in
About
being
staffing,
able to-
yes.
About being able to step,
Yeah.
recruit and retain staff.
I'm not worried about that. Honestly, I feel like when you are recruiting, there's gonna be a mass, I think, of influx of people who are going to go for the role. However, I do wanna state that we are not necessarily looking for like an entry level role. We want someone that has like at least 3-year minimum experience within a contact center, so they know how to handle certain things. And I do think that we'll be able to find, especially in the state of California, someone that will be able to fit that role. I don't think that we'll have an issue with that at all.
We are going to try very hard to focus in Los Banos.
Yes.
And this can be a real opportunity to hire some folks from our service territory in the city.
CSRs be in our office or remote?
They will be remote. We haven't really discussed as far as like their training goes, but I would like at least their onboarding for us to be able to come up and be in office so that we can have that experience and whatever questions, at least for the first week, but they will be remote. I've had that experience with like helping and running remote call centers, so I can have them set everything up, know what they're looking for, make sure they're comfortable and everything of that nature. Yes.
Are we data tracking now, or will we be able to data track the type of calls? And if, let's say a customer calls checking on a rebate, but we use that opportunity to address other potential things that customer could utilize, are we going to be able to amass data? So we have
Yes.
some sort of
Yeah, so
strategy
if
from
you,
that.
in the report that we submitted, like the last couple of pages is sort of a sample of like the current like monthly stats that Calpine derives. And those are topics that we've told them in the past to sort of track for us, but we can create our own tracking metrics to flag calls, to be able to create reports out of the system for what we're looking at. So you can, there's a lot of functionality in the back end of the IVR system to be able to sort of attach like activities that they call to the calls, to be able to track what something is about, how a call started, how it ended, the topics that were discussed in the call. Yeah.
And I would just add that fielding input from PCE customers telling me their experience on the phone was maddening. Maddening is not a word I would ever want associated with PCE. I'm really excited about this, and I thank you both. Excellent
Yeah.
report.
I say one of the biggest challenges I think we have, just observing and listening to the calls, is this current staff right now is coached very heavily on account verification, right? And so they almost start every call with like just trying to get those account verification steps out first, which is, important, but sometimes you just need to stop for a second and figure out like, why is someone calling first before you, take them through a 10-minute verification checklist. So, yeah.
Well, and eliminating we'll get back to you in a day or two. And that was a lot of what I heard from customers in my city where they were trying to convert to solar or whatever. And they just had too much lag time between those calls. So this is great.
Okay, but what type of call volume will these CSRs typically have?
So like right now, we see anywhere from like 450 to like 800 calls a month, typically depends on the type of month. Like in the winter time when the bills were higher, we see much higher call volume. Right now it's sort of a lag time of the year, so the call volume's a little bit lower. But this is in a state where we're not actually asking people to call us. Most people are calling us because they have a concern or a problem or a question. When we launch into this new world of like really aggressively marketing our programs and like asking people to call us and to reach out to us if they need help and to, schedule an appointment with our concierge service or to, work with our one-stop shop installation partner. I think and that's definitely gonna drive more traffic to us. And so I expect that call volume to increase.
I'm gonna ask the same questions, Dave, but really, it seems like the problem case that we're trying to solve for is that lag delay that you were talking about. And my question is 3 people enough? Because a delay like that is typically they're trying to get on the phone to the next call. Or they may not have the answer and they have to research it. And so what I want to make sure is we're gonna spend the amount of money, which is double what we spend now, basically, it's significant. Are we actually solving the problem? Like, are we sure that spending this money is actually going to solve the problem that our customers are experiencing?
So I can take a crack at that. We landed on this number. I mean, to be perfectly frank, I was advocating to start with the lower number
Okay,
and work up. My good friend Leslie here convinced us that that we should not do that. We should be prepared for the calls that are coming in and be prepared for growth. If there happens to be an issue that we don't exactly know. The other thing though that I think that helped me across the goal line in terms of staffing up pretty quickly is that when these folks have downtime, we can also be tapping them to assist with administrative items. So they're not just sort of one-stop shopping, only doing call center. That is their primary role.
Yeah.
Clear about that. But they work for PCE, right? So they can be really team players for anything else that might be going on that we need help with. So I don't know, Leslie, if you want to add.
Yeah,
to
so
that.
like some of the administrative things we can be doing, extra support on, or even sort of adding to, because we just don't have the capacity to do right now. One of the pain points that Andres mentioned in the past with issuing the rebate checks and is folks will miss them often because they forget that it's coming and whatnot. We can do a call out, to remind people that a rebate check is coming in the next week or so. We can also, there's research that has to be done for every account that applies for the 0% financing, which is kind of a lot of work to dig in to make sure that that customer qualified for their account status, that it could easily be transferred over to the CSR staff to do that verification of accounts for that and really take off a lot of load from that program as well. So yeah, there's other things we can do, but yeah, there's some administrative things that will help move things along quicker that we can absolutely assign to the CSR team.
And the idea would be, that Stephanie would come on as full-time and really be monitoring all of that volume on a daily basis. So if we get to a place where we're consistently falling behind SLAs, service level agreements that are very specific. We didn't go through all of those because that's way in the weeds, but very, very specific targets. Then we can deal with bringing another CSR on. The good news is they're not super expensive. It's not a very expensive resource from a staffing perspective.
okay. And that's great, because there's a lot of value added on top of the other big thing. But getting back to like the initial question, do we think moving to in-house is going to solve the problems that our customers are experiencing with respect to lag time or having to wait a couple days or things like
I mean,
that?
that's the main reason.
Yeah.
Do we think that will, their experience of them, that's not a time, but each one of them will be able to actually clear those issues up without having to wait a day to get back to them?
Yeah, I mean, on the most simplest one would be like just checking on a rebate status, right? Where the CSRs that they're in-house will be able to log into the program Salesforce platform and just be able to verify, oh yes, we've received your application, it's in process. But right now that isn't escalated out, email, follow-up, back and forth with somebody. So just on that note, be able to solve those things much faster. If there's a more complicated follow-up, there still may be, some more back and forth that needs to happen. Like there's equipment that doesn't qualify and then you need to go back and forth with the contractor potentially, that might still happen. That might not be able to be resolved in that call, but I think we can resolve 3/4 of what's happening right now,
But
yeah.
also the CSR, sorry, is a shepherd, right? So it's almost like case management too.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
not just passive, it's let's follow up with that customer. Did that connection get made? Was your issue resolved, et cetera?
So I'd be really interested to see when this came back to the board, like a list of the top 10 items people call from for CSRs. What the pathway is now for each one of those items and how that pathway will be resolved differently as a result of this spend to reduce time.
Mhm.
So that would be something that I'd say, okay, I really get the use case here. How let's reduce some time.
And I mean, consistent with that would be, what is the variability in the number of calls coming in? Because I think the concern is that we'll have people that are idle more than we'll need more people. So the idea of using the CSRs for administrative work is really important. Does the IVR do screen pop onto the remote computer?
No, it won't. I don't know if that's a feature that we might be able to turn on. That is something I can go back and ask Calpine when.
Because that's always saves time when you have multiple calls coming
Absolutely,
in.
I can see if that's a capability that the IVR actually does. That's not a problem.
One of the questions I have, one.
Mhm.
Is there the option for the caller just to, I just want to leave the message. I don't want to talk to 4 different people. I want to be able to say, my name, my number, this is my issue, please give me a call back.
There is the option to have a voicemail. Now, usually that happens from what Calpine explained when there isn't an agent available. What we can do is see if there's a way to just turn that on as a feature for our in-house contact center to see if that's something that the agents can do. They did explain that when the person leaves a voicemail, it does come to the CSR as an actual call, so they'll hear the information that the person left. But I can see if that's something that we can just turn on as a feature.
Yeah, press 2 if you'd like to leave.
Right, yeah.
Any other questions?
Staff report. Emailed so many questions and it was great, overly thorough, which was wonderful.
I do have to give, it was definitely a team effort. There's multiple people that helped with that. And I really got to give special acknowledgement also to Jaden Hanan, who's the account services specialist on our team, who she's just been doing fantastic work with the info ad, and she's been listening to all of the opt-out calls for like the last 10 months and helped develop, you know, a lot of the trending issues and feedback to Calpine, you know, over the last several months and helping with Stephanie create sort of like an issues list of things to address, you know, with the new training for new staff. So yeah, she's really been exceptional. You guys don't see her, she's very quiet.
And I have one tertiary thing to add, and that is last month, on consent, your board approved a contract with Robert Half Associates Temp Agency. And they also do placements and a whole bunch of other things. And now twice, we have recruited support on a contract basis from Robert Half, including Stephanie here. And what turns out to be really great about it is that we get a chance to meet her.
Yeah.
We get a chance to work with her, understand her skill set in helping design all of this. I also do want to give both of you a shout out. They did full research on having our own IVR and sort of purchasing and investing in all the technology, and then decided that, you know, it just was more cost efficient and frankly safer from a technology point of view to right now stick with the Calpine platform. But who knows in the future, right? I mean, that there's so there's a growth path, and being able to sort of go from contract to employment is actually a real benefit, I think, in this case. So do want to also just thank you for approving that contract.
Okay, is there any remote participants for public comment? Where is it? All right, this is an action item.
I will move to approve the recommendation as written.
I'll second that.
Director Mackin, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great work.
Nice job.
Thank you. Item 5, semi-annual strategic plan update for discussion.
I think I'm gonna take this one unless, Shalini, are you online today?
Shawnee is online.
Shalini is out ill today. Both of us got slammed last week. So I'm gonna pinch hit for Shalini. So all of you have been through this before. This is our annual midpoint review of the strategic plan. Notably, this will be your last midpoint review on this particular strategic plan. Because we have just identified our next support organization to help us with our next one that will kick off sometime over the summer. I know that Donna has been involved and she will be tapping into a couple of folks to form a strategic plan subcommittee, which I believe is similar to what was done in the past. So we'll be learning more about that as we go. But for now, what I would like to do, and I can't remember the order. Let's see. So what we're gonna do is we are, thank you, gonna have each one of our directors come up and just briefly present their department. What I would ask you, directors, is not to read or review what the goals are. I think everybody's very well familiar with them by now. And so we can get through this quickly just by focusing on your dashboard and then what your kind of midpoint priorities or key issues are. So really quick here, I'll just say you all will recall that in the last 2 meetings in March and April, the board has amended our strategic priority number 1, dealing with our 24/7 hourly matching and our 100% renewable goal. And then our second priority is regarding our greenhouse gas free in transportation and buildings by 2035 and all of the program area. There are no recommended amendments to that goal at this time. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I will cover this one. I'm pinch hitting a little bit here. So the 100% annual by 2030, we are currently at 51.7%, measured on a calendar year now for 2023. So that is what will show up in our power content label. And then for our 2035 decarb goal, we are now at a cumulative total of 38,381 metric tons carbon reduced. And we will get into more of those details as we go through the program slides. So with that, Roy, does Roy have presenter status?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, super. Take it away, Roy.
Sure. Morning, everyone. Roy, Director of Power Resources. So this KPI slide here indicates our Eco Plus and Eco 100 renewable content. We were able to close our product content positions in April last month. We landed at 51.7% for Eco Plus, which is close to the 50%. We try to match as close as possible to 50% because of the very expensive price for RECs. The carbon-free attributes are half the price. So this is actually pretty good. We've adjusted our target to meet a 2025 target of minimum 60%. Our default portfolio will be higher than that, but our minimum target is 60% after the goal has been adjusted. The emission factor for Eco Plus is still very, very low compared to the state. That's 12 pounds per megawatt hour, and the slight increase is due to our the field geothermal resources in our portfolio. Eco 100 remains 100% renewable, and the emission factor is 0. And the last benchmark here is PCE's summer peak load served by new capacity. We did change the formula for this one to account for our new storage capacities. So the way it's now calculated is to take the highest peak demand hour in PCE in the summer for PCE, and stack up all our resources, and including discharge from new storage resources, and see how many % is served by new capacities. And so for 2023, that will be 30%. We were on target to meet 50% by 2025. Next slide, please. Okay, I will not repeat the strategic goal, as we had spent the March and time in the March and April board meeting to update it. Now the goals are more flexible than before to help with curtailing the cost. A few highlights for the mid-year review. On the planning front, again, is the adjustment to our goal, and we also presented the ownership versus long-term contracting analysis to the board in February. On the procurement side, we did execute the 55 megawatt Flower Wallace standalone storage project with Prologis, and we were able to meet our 2023 month ahead and 2024 year ahead resource adequacy requirements. We are on target to meet the 2024 month ahead resource adequacy requirement as well. We're facing a little bit of challenge with some of the project delays, which leaves open position to fill, but we're actively managing that. And we are also looking very good to meet the 2025 slice of day RA structure. And that's the first year slice of day is being implemented. We're looking good on that as well. As mentioned before, we're able to meet the Eco Plus product content requirement for 2023. So in the next month or two, we will be taking another standalone storage project to the board for approval. So that's on the horizon. In terms of operation, we did bring on Erica Solar Plus Storage project online in April 2024, and we are working to bring 3 more projects online later this year. They are Solar Plus storage and storage projects. With the addition of these 3 projects, these are long-term contracts. We'll able to it will help us to meet our RA requirements for 2024 and keep our costs down. And in January, we were able to successfully transition to our new scheduling coordinator, Customized Energy Solutions, and they've been doing a great job for us so far. We've also filled our market operations manager position with our internal candidate, Moa Enright, and she is our current risk manager. But as you all know, we have hired a new risk manager, so we're going to transition that to finance, the middle office role, and then Moa will be focused on market operation and management. And as you can see, this new scheduling coordinator, new market operation manager, this is a transition to a more operation-focused operation and structure and within Power Resources, as opposed to only focused on procurement. So that's the new sort of priority for the upcoming year. And then the enterprise risk management policy has been drafted, and we will be reviewing that with the executive team very soon here. And then we'll also be transitioned to the new risk manager after the initial review. So those are the highlights for Power Resources. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Roy. All right, we'll move to Rafael and Energy Programs Update.
Thank you, directors. The first thing that I would call out here before getting into the specific numbers is the pandemic really did a number on our uptake in our programs generally, but I'm happy to say that we're finally, I think, starting to see a kind of post-pandemic traction on our programs. Taking a look at the top lines, we're still a little bit behind on our targets for transportation. I'll speak to that in detail here in a moment. But buildings, we are now exceeding the targets that we had most recently, and so it gives us an opportunity to up those target numbers. The transportation numbers are lagging primarily because of EV charging. We have seen acceleration in the program. We just recently crossed 1,000 ports installed, so a significant milestone for the program. And overall, the trend line is going in the right direction. And we have some 4,000 ports in the pipeline. And a key thing here is that we're really seeing traction on our core strategy about right-sizing the EV charging scale and types of ports that are being installed. And 2/3 of our ports are in multifamily, and which is really excellent given the substantial need in that market segment. Moving on here, as you can see, on appliances, we've exceeded our targets, and that's really driving our emissions benefits numbers. Local resources, we're still operating behind, but GovPD is gaining traction. And we have, in addition to the 7.8 here that we've reached, we do have more or less 18 megawatts in the pipeline through the GovPD programs. I should flag both for EV charging and local resources, it's not clear we're going to meet the targets as they stand by 2025, but I think we are going to be close. And then on our local low income investments, we continue to do quite well, but it varies year to year, as noted here. Next slide. Oh, thank you. I'm not going to repeat the strategic plan goals. These are the same, so we are recommending no changes in the strategic plan goals at this time. And finally, additional detail on some key highlights. This is just expanding on the comments that I made earlier. We continue to see very strong uptake in relative terms in our appliance programs, very strong contractor participation, really driven by an on-bill finance program, which is extremely popular. We have well over 30 contractors that have installed a dozen systems or more. And every month we continue to see contractors coming forward asking to participate in that program. We of course have the launch of the new turnkey service that is in progress. So Alejandra is knee deep in that work now. And on EV charging, as I mentioned, not only are 2/3 of our ports in multifamily, but our per port costs are $4,000 on average or less, which compares incredibly favorably to PG&E's roughly $18,000 a port for their program. And then I spoke briefly earlier on the government solar program. About 5 sites have already completed construction in the first round. 3 have been energized. And the other 7 sites should be coming online over the next few months. We have had a bit of a transition, as directors are aware, with regards to the construction firm, but that is now moving forward. And the second round, we're very optimistic. We're in the process now of inviting signatures to local governments on the power purchase agreements. And so some of the directors here have city staff working on that now, but we're very excited to see the increased traction in programs overall.
Question. In addition to aggregating the number of vehicle charging units installed, are we monitoring how much those are used?
That is in the plans. So we are engaged with the vendors to start doing data collection. We do anticipate a lag, particularly in multifamily, between when chargers are installed and when utilization starts to appear, because vehicles will people who want electric vehicles will only do that after they're ready to buy a car and the charging is already available. So we do expect a lag, but we will be collecting that data.
But we've also installed them over time, so we're going to be able to see how the earlier installs are performing.
Yes,
as time passes.
that's correct. That's correct.
And when's that going to be available?
I don't yet have a date, but I am expecting that this year, most of the systems probably will have data collection in place. I should flag that a significant percentage of our installs are unconnected level 1, which is the ultra low cost option where we don't have a direct data collection capability, but on all others, we will be collecting that data.
And what percentage are level 1 versus?
Forgive me, I should know the answer to that, but in multifamily, it's probably in excess of 50%.
And there's no way then to judge whether those units are being used.
We will be able to do meter-based analysis over time. So as utilization grows, we will be able to infer that.
And will we have that information beginning by the end of this calendar year?
My Theoretically, yes, because we're collecting the data. Whether we will have the analytics in place by the end of this year is still TBD. There may not be enough utilization yet for us to be able to discern that signal. But I do expect that next year that probably will be in place.
In the multifamily, I believe condos and ownership properties are sort of lumped together with the rental properties.
Yeah.
If there's any way of teasing that out so that we can really see what is the uptake with the multifamily rental properties,
Yes.
which is much more concerned than the.
Yes. Interestingly, we had expected condos to move more quickly than apartments because of owner demand. But what we have actually seen is that apartments are actually moving faster than condos, because condos have a complex governance structure and you have to get the HOA involved, and the decision-making process is often complicated. So of those 2/3, overwhelmingly, they're apartments.
I see 5.7 megawatts of local resources through the GovPD program, and you mentioned 18 megawatts in the pipeline. What's the, just broadly speaking, what's the balance of the pipeline for local resources?
So I should note that in the metrics, that also includes our residential solar and storage, but it's about half of that number. But going forward, it's all GovPD. And then to your question, that 18 megawatts does include some early project development that we've done with the San Mateo Community College districts and others that have particularly large systems. So those are a little farther in the future.
Any other questions for Rafael? Thank you, Rafael. All right, next up, we will have Gwen Rose with Marketing and Community Relations. Let me get to the right slide. There you go, Gwen.
Dashboard. Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Good morning. Apologies, I couldn't be there in person. I have a sick kid at home and I may or may not be fighting it. I can't quite tell right now. Okay, so looking at our dashboard with our KPIs for marketing and community relations. First up is the participation rate, which is 96%, and that's held steady this year over last year. And we're 1% below our 2025 target. Looking next at aided awareness, we were at 41% as of our annual perception survey, which was completed in June of last year. And for favorability, which was also completed in June of last year, we're at 58%. So there are slight increases over 2022, but as you'll see, it's at risk in terms of what our 2025 targets are of 60% for aided awareness and 80% for favorability. I can talk a little bit more about that, but essentially we have over the last few years increased our email communications and our online communications, but to significantly reach or to significantly level up to meet those strategic plan targets, really need to invest a lot in broad-based brand awareness. And I can talk a little bit more about our brand refresh, but that's essentially one of the catalysts for doing the brand refresh that we're sort of midstream in right now. And so we don't have values for 2024, but we are actually in the middle of doing some brand message testing, which will help inform this year where we're at on aided awareness and favorability, but we wouldn't expect those values to change significantly from last year because we haven't launched any large new brand awareness campaigns. And then, okay, so go ahead and.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Going to the highlights. Okay, so a lot going on in terms of media relations, the board approved the rate freeze, I think back in January. So we announced those and then followed up with a campaign across all of our channels to really highlight that electricity freeze that drove impressions and views to 835,000 across our service territory and brought 10,400 new visitors to the website. We've had great success with media attention on a lot of the work that Programs is doing, that thought leadership on EV programs and electrification efforts with Canary Media and Grist. You should see those in the board newsletters. And then a lot of local journalism coverage with Redwood City Pulse, the Almanac, and the San Mateo Daily Journal. Community relations, we this year awarded 16 grants and brought on 5 new CBO partners. So really working on increasing our reach and our coverage geographically, as well as to different demographics. Now we're in May, we're just coming off really heavy community events. So we've done a ton of Earth Day events in a lot of the service territory, in the member agency territories, like 30 events reaching 2,200 people. Really great being out in the community. So that was a heavy lift. And then a ton of great work going on that we're funding through our school partnerships. So San Mateo County Office of Education with green field trips, coaching for the Youth Climate Ambassador cohort, and then working with the Community College District on electrification exhibits. So lots of good work going on with the schools program. And then for marketing communications, continuing with the email and the direct mail outreach on our 0% rate increase. Of course, all of the campaign work to support energy programs. And then we've also launched a series of new web pages. One of them is community web pages. So each specific city now has their own web page where we get to highlight what the economic savings are, what the emissions reductions are, and then the projects that we're working on, like highlighting the GovPV projects and ribbon cuttings and making sure we celebrate those online with video and images. And then, I don't have a specific note on here, but I do want to just mention the brand refresh. So we're midstream on that, doing a ton of foundational work. So I look forward to updating you more thoroughly soon, but we're in the middle of testing out our key brand messages. We've developed, a more fully fleshed out kind of brand pyramid. What is the promise we're making to our customers? What is our personality? What are their core values? What emotional rewards do we want to deliver? What are the functional benefits that we provide? So really clarifying that, thinking about our brand architecture, and then we've just kicked off our website refresh. So that's happening, that's getting underway, really excited about that. And then also updating our social media strategy as well. So lots going on that I'm excited to share in more detail soon.
Any questions for Glenn?
So I love seeing all of this in like customer orientation. I'm wondering if there can be a web page, more information pushing out information about where staff is doing presentations, participating in various seminars, and also where events are sponsored by PCE.
Yeah.
There's so much that's being done, and I think just having a calendar or something where people could see the date, click on something, and it would give them information.
I think that would be great. And I know you've mentioned that before, so.
And there's more being done, like on the newsletter, I noticed all the birthday events and all of that, which is great, but I think it's amazing how the reach of PCE, and I think that really will help with it.
Doable, Glenn?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll add that to our website requirements list. And, we're starting to really work on how we celebrate the, being in the community, and then showing that, especially in our online and our social media and whatnot. But you're right, having some way of showing that on our website makes a lot of sense.
Well, and it also helps cross-market the event. Exactly. So they can click on it and then get information about the event. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Glenn? All right, thank you, Glenn. We'll move on to account services and Leslie.
Thank you. I wanted to expand a little bit on the participation rate number here, just because we're all very used to seeing that 97%, see it's at 86. That was really having to do with the onboarding of Los Banos. We might have had a higher opt-out rate in Los Banos. Right now we're currently sitting about an 85% participation rate. in Los Banos, which was in range of what we predicted, you know, was gonna be. But that sort of averaged out over the rest of the community does sort of bring that participation rate overall down just a little bit. Those opt-outs have really stabilized though. We're down to under 10 per week, and that's been holding for, you know, a few months now. So I do think we're in a much better space there, and we can start to work to, you know, rebuild that you know, our presence in the community there. So just to highlight on that. And I know it's ancient history, but when we first rolled out service to San Mateo County, we had a similar opt-out percentage in Portola Valley. It was about 12-13% in Portola Valley. But now we're at a 96% participation rate in Portola Valley, and that's because of that attrition year over year, where new people move in. The old folks had opted out, the new customers are automatically our customers. There's less trauma, you know, in that turnover, and our participation rate goes up. So very likely to see that trend happening in Los Banos, especially with more new housing development happening in Los Banos. So higher opportunity for that participation rate to creep back up faster. So a couple of you know, other highlights here with our key accounts program. Justin, who you've heard from a couple of times, has been very active, you know, with some of our larger strategic customers. We've actually been able to bring a couple of customers back from direct access this year. There's a couple more that we're having conversations with, and really doing a lot of work to support the electrification for Caltrain and that build out. So there's a lot of activity happening with that group as well. And with our data access for customers, we've gotten a few more strategic accounts enrolled in our utility API tool. It's been a very useful platform for the folks that do use it. And we're actually looking at getting another one of our larger key accounts enrolled in with it, and working with utility API potential to do a white paper about the showcasing that sort of streamlined data access that CCAs are helping large customers provide. So excited about that. These are just a refresh of our general strategic plan objectives, you know, ensuring high customer retention and satisfaction, which is our #1 goal, and then operational excellence and access to data. And then to go through a couple of our highlights here for this year, did a lot of work in the beginning of the year with the finance team to help run those numbers and advocate for that 0% rate increase for January, which was I think very well received by folks. Looking forward to continuing to work with Nick and his team going forward about how we manage our new rate setting process for customers and make sure that we are delivering that value to everyone across our service territories. We also have increased, let's see, oh, we did an outreach. I highlighted this a couple months ago. We did an outreach specifically to our low-income customers who were eligible for AM, the Arrears Management Program plan. That's a forgiveness program for folks that are very large accounts in arrears. We did just a very modest sort of test outreach email, and over 20% of those customers that we reached out to did enroll in the program. So we're doing a follow-up campaign that we're working with marketing to target people a little bit more directly. That's one of the things we're looking to do next year with the marketing team, is to do some more specific targeted outreach to our vulnerable customers and help connect them with the assistance programs that they can benefit from, that they're eligible for, that we know that they're eligible for, that they're not taking advantage of. So really excited to dive a little bit more into that work and expand on just the really modest success that we had initially. And then the big thing that we've been working on, which you just heard about earlier, is the transition plan for bringing that contact center in-house. So that's really been a large focus for our team, is building up that plan and ensuring that we sort of had everything ready to go to bring forward to the board and ideally get approval for that. So we can really, I'm really excited about this going forward. For those of you who've known me, been here a while, I was very adamant against having an in-house contact center 7 years ago when we first launched. It was something that we had even mapped out in this office space here, like that back conference room was supposed to be our call center room, and I was like, no, we're not doing that. This is, I'm really excited about what we're doing going forward here. I think we've got a really great model, and we've got a really great justification for doing it to help with the programs outreach and rollout and supporting customers in a more complete view. So those are some I'm excited about. Thank you. Any questions? No. Great.
Thank you, Leslie.
Morning, I think Jeremy is on the line and he's going to kick it off our public policy update. Jeremy, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hopefully you can hear me. Good morning, members of the board. I will quickly tee this up and then hand the mic to Mark. You'll note in terms of the color coding of things, there's been a little more change on the legislative side, so I'll let Mark speak more to that. But the policy team, the regulatory team, continues to strongly support PCE's procurement and programs related objectives. A lot of the work hasn't changed much, but a major tonal change I'd like to highlight is just the overall sensitivity to rates right now and the need for rate affordability and how that ties into our programmatic efforts, such as what Raphael mentioned, the right sizing of electrification work, as well as a lot of our advocacy on the procurement side has really been focused on avoiding costs and reining in costs and reining in market inefficiencies to allow for CCAs to more affordably procure the resources we need to bring to bear for our customers. With that, I think I'll hand the baton to Mark.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good morning. Speak to the change in our legislative impact from challenges and on target to on target. We measure our legislative impact based on, first and foremost, our relationships with our local legislators and our ability to impact legislation, either through them or through our role at CalCCA. We advanced the assessment because we believe this reflects the continuing terrific relationships that we enjoy with our local legislators, and also the increased influence and stature which we now have, in large part based upon our addition of COO Shalini Swarup, who has terrific relationships in additional places in Sacramento. Our strong legislative support in Sacramento is in large part due to the support we enjoy locally from our community in general, from our board members, from our cities. And as a brief reminder, in the last few years, CalCCA ran 2 bills, and our delegation was very, very supportive. I think we're the envy of other CCAs in our ability to enlist our members as either co-sponsors or co-authors of the bills. We also worked very diligently last year to get a bill from a budget bill into a legislative effort, and then dealt with it both at the budget and at the bill level. And we were very involved in that and really appreciate our local legislators and their role in helping us with those efforts. And as a reminder, last year we were in fact asked by our local state senator to sponsor a bill, and we did that. So this year we've expanded our legislative arena and our portfolio to federal issues. We've retained a federal lobbyist who's helping us to navigate that arena, and for the first time we filed formal requests just in the last couple of weeks seeking federal funding for our low-income home upgrade program. Also this year, you may, I hope you've had an opportunity to take a look, but in the back of our monthly legislative updates, which comes every month that the legislature's in session, there's now a bill matrix which highlights bills in Sacramento, both those on which we've taken a position, some of which we have not, and those bills on which CalCCA has taken a position. We continue to address our attention to coalition building, both in general and through our DEAI objectives. This past year, I had the honor of serving as co-chair of Cal CCA's external relations team. And that has been both enlightening and educational, and we continue to advance those efforts. We continue to peg our efforts to foster CCA growth as having challenges, but on target. You may recall this was discussed at the board level last year due to certain circumstances around the state. The growth of CCAs has been limited recently, but we feel that our strong relationships and those that we're building and continuing to build in Los Banos and our organization's strength and leadership and transparent processes have resonated in that community. And we're hoping that will help to spark additional interest as we move forward. Want to mention just a few of the challenges that we're looking at in the year ahead. We believe that the fall election will again present a lot of challenges and opportunities. This will be the last year of significant turnover we anticipate in Sacramento. You may recall that beginning in 2012, the electorate voted for 12-year term limits. And so we are coming up on the end of those terms of those legislators who came in under the new system. And so there's going to be a significant turnover in both the Assembly and the Senate due to those term limits. And we also, this year looking forward, are pretty unclear still, even after Friday's budget session with the governor, on whether there's going to be a climate bill to help backfill certain funding sources. It's certainly not going to be at the $15 billion as proposed earlier in the year, but we'll see whether there's going to be such an effort at all. And we're continuing to review the governor's budget. It just came out and details are to follow. He released about 50 pages. Usually it's about 5 times that length. So we're anticipating more information coming in the next few days by the deadline, which is tomorrow. So happy to take any questions, and thanks so much.
One question for Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jeremy, earlier today in Audit and Finance, we had a question about the income graduated fixed charge. And the executive committee may be interested to understand, where are we with that? Either one of you. And if that does move forward, and I assume that it will, is that a 2026 implementation? Can you comment on that, please?
Sure. So the commission just approved the decision that would adopt the income graduated fixed charge. It was approved on last Thursday morning. And it does move forward with the core proposal of a 3-tiered setup with either $6, $12, or $24 a month charge. The lowest tier is only eligible for those that are part of the CARE discount program. The middle tier, the $12 tier, is eligible for those that are participating in the FARA income relief program, and also a segment of those that are able to live in affordable housing. The nearest implementation date for us, for our customers in PG&E service area, would be January 1, 2026, because it requires certain billing system changes to be made, and they're going through a comprehensive billing system overhaul. So it will be a little time till our customers see these charges take effect on their bills. The vast majority of our customers will be receiving those $24 a month fixed charges, but their volumetric charges, the rates for distribution service will decrease. And it is a bit of a wash of who's winning, who's losing. But generally speaking, those that use more electricity will come out further ahead here, and those that have very low usage, such as through rooftop solar, that netting out their usage, will see elevated monthly bills. And there's more on all this in the board memo coming up for the next board meeting. So I encourage you all to look there.
I have a bit to add on that also. You may recall that Assemblymember Irwin introduced AB 1999 early in the year. It received a great deal of attention at that time, which would have addressed the income graduated fixed charge. That bill died for lack of a hearing some weeks ago. It was a policy bill, and in the interim, the PUC's proposal came out and was adopted. I understand, and I have not yet confirmed this, but I understand that her bill was allowed to be heard. They waived the limitation, the statutory limitation on when a policy bill could be heard, and that they're scheduling a hearing for this Wednesday on an amended version of AB 1999. I went online to look over the weekend and didn't see that new version out there. But my understanding is it will have something to do about sunsetting and some other relevant aspects of the congratulated fixed charge. So there's probably more to come in the legislature in the near term.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Questions on public policy? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll toss it over to Nick, who's going to give us a quick finance and financial stewardship update. And then after Nick is Kim with data technical.
Sure. Finance, I'll be quick here. We just had our audit and finance committee meeting this morning. We are in the process of putting together the 2025 budget, which will be presented to the full board next month. But a little sneak peek, you can see our days cash on hand. The first row is probably by far and away our most important measure. We are targeting to come out this year at around 377 days cash on hand. As of March quarter, it's at 367, so above our 250 range. However, next year we are seeing a significant increase in the cost of energy. And then so assuming another 5% discount to PG&E, which is an assumption we haven't finalized yet, we'd come in around 247 days cash on hand. So right below our 250 high end of our range. And actually that number continues to come down over the next year in the 5-year forecast, driven by high cost of energy. Credit rating, I also updated the audit and finance committee today that we met with Moody's, one of our 2 agencies that continue to rate us last week, a week from today, had a really positive meeting. They rate us Baa1, which is the equivalent of BBB+ on the S&P rating, a little below what we would like. Based on that meeting, which I thought seemed to go incredibly well, I think we're in good position for potential upgrade in the coming 12 months. You can never guarantee how the agencies are going to react. But I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe put us on positive outlook with an eventual upgrade over the next 12 months. So we're still targeting that A level next year. Hopefully Moody's can get there. As far as change in net position, this is our revenues less our costs. Year to date, you can see we are in incredibly strong financial shape of $85 million. This is in thousands of dollars there. For the full year, we're looking to come in around $95 million. We did present to the Audit and Finance Committee today the idea of a rate stabilization fund, which will be taken to the full board in 2 weeks. So you'll all hear about that recommendation and hopefully for your approval, which would potentially allow us to defer some revenues from 2024 into 2025. Our target for next year continues to be positive and we're on path for that. As far as investment performance, this is the return we get on our excess cash. This number is becoming increasingly important because we have a significant amount of cash. As we're all probably aware, we are in an elevated interest rate environment today, and we're earning close to 3% in our cash, and that actually number is going to continue to increase going forward. I think a more applicable target, which I've sort of tweaked on this page, is to beat the benchmarks. We're a little bit beholden to what interest rates are. That's well beyond our control, unfortunately. But our goal for ourselves and our managers who we hire is to beat their relevant benchmark. And so that's something I'll probably be tweaking this page going forward. I'm happy to say year to date, we are beating benchmark, all 3 of our external managers. And then the last goal, which is obviously one that's shared with Roy and the energy procurement team, is cost of energy. This is the average cost per megawatt hour. I put this in amber, only because I think you're all aware of the elevated energy price environment that we're in today. This is mostly for the green attributes, the rec price, the GHG free prices, as well as capacity costs. You can see we are currently, that number has been increasing and it's expected to be at a high level next year as well. So something we're very monitoring and managing carefully. Yes.
Why don't we have a target of a higher cost of energy?
I guess that's a fair point. This is not necessarily, we hope it's as low as possible. The target here is where our forecasts, our budget is based on. And so maybe target is maybe a misnomer. But that is what our budget is of $112.
But we're not trying to meet that.
For all
It's a little random right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
And just the
carryover.
colors.
The amber, no, it's, I mean, I guess a target is our budget. And so our goal is to beat budget, and so below $112, but obviously our goal is as low as possible. It's arbitrary, I put it as amber, challenge exists, only because it's our number 1, 2, and 3 areas of focus. And we're in a high price environment, and I think there've been obviously several presentations to the full board and exec committee on what we're doing to manage that, and so that's why I ambered it.
Maybe a footnote.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question on the 2025 days cash on hand target versus 2024 year to date. Did you say that assumes a 5% discount? So that's a rate increase from where we are today.
That would actually be a decrease from where we are today because
Well, we've got more than we've got a 10 to 15% decrease discount today.
What we're hearing is PG&E is gonna be lowering their gen rates by 11% on average on July 1.
Okay.
So that's impacting, obviously we are at a high discount to PG&E, but if they lower their rates by 11% to maintain the 5% discount, we're likely gonna have to lower our rates as well.
You will see much more about that in the budget presentation in May. No, not in the budget, gonna be talking about it in the rate stabilization and then in the budget presentation in June. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but if we leave it alone right now, just sort of in a break even, I believe we were looking at around a 3% estimated right now.
If we don't do anything with our rates, it's actually, we're about on parity with PG&E. Some higher, some lower, but on average about parity. So to maintain the 5% discount, we're gonna have to reduce our rates. In general, on average, there's a lot of rates, a lot of rate classes.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Originally, we thought they were gonna lower their rates by 7%. Now they're up to projecting 11%. We won't actually know until June when they take action.
It's just another competitive PG&E move.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't known, so there's this, what they did, and this was part of the ERA proceeding last year, was there was a under collection in one of the balancing accounts. Jeremy can jump in when I misnomer or something, but there was a under collection in the Cuba balancing account which was exasperated by the fact there were some very, very high energy costs in December, January, February, the beginning of the year last year that weren't necessarily forecasted into the previous era, right? And so that sort of continued through that under collection throughout the whole year last year. And so when they did put forth the ERA proposal last year, they were like, we have this huge under collection. Normally that's collected over on a 12-year basis, or 12-month basis, 12-month basis. PG&E argued we should be able to collect this at 6 months for all of these other reasons. CCA's, protested that, so we should leave it at 12 months. Ultimately, the 6-month accelerated collection won, right? And so that's why they had such a large increase on the gen side in January, which is one of the reasons why when we came forward and talked about can we not raise rates for this first 6 months of the year, because it was just gonna be this huge jump that was gonna come back down again. And let's not chase that. We're okay right now. Let's just stay solid. And so that was part of that whole justification that we went through in November, December to figure out, like, could we just keep it flat and write it out until we got to July 1? Yeah.
But the thing that makes it look incredibly competitive
Yeah.
is that while they're proposing to reduce generation rates by 11%, the cost of power is going up by 20%.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense. If the cost of power is going up by 20%, that means generation rates are more expensive, generation is more expensive.
Yeah, it's just this, I know it's super confusing, but it's just that because this component was a recapturing of an under collection from previous years. It's recapturing money that they under collected.
No, but that's why they
Yeah.
increased rates in January. I understand.
Yeah.
that. But the issue is now in June, they're going to decrease rates to get away from that one-time hiccup where they increase rates. But in fact, our analysis is that generation costs are going up significantly.
Yeah, so when they did the rate increase in January, it wasn't just that 11%, they increased more than that. And so they're pulling back some of the increase that they did in January. So they still had increases factoring in what they proposed were going to be their costs for this year. Now, they could be totally off on what they projected into their ERA costs for this year, and they could be stuck with an under collection situation again next year. But all of these decisions were already made like in December, and so they can't readjust mid-year for gen collection. It all has to go into the next ERA filing, and so they could have not accounted properly for the higher generation costs this year. I actually don't know. That's detailed way beyond my ability to understand in the rate cases. But if they did do that, if they did wrongly project what they were going to need to spend for this year's, ERA, for this year's gen recapture, then they're going to be in another under collection situation and that's going to be part of the next ERA case. Yeah. They can't adjust mid-year for real-time conditions on generation. They only can do it in their annual filing.
Yeah, just to quickly chime in, Leslie has that all right. This was all approved through the same decision that set the January 1 rates. What's atypical here is that they're amortizing this under collection over a 6-month period instead of a 12-month period. And that was something really solely PG&E advocated for. The CCA's pushed back against, as it creates this confusion and volatility throughout the year. But the commission sided with PG&E there. And then just quickly, the way these rates are set, as Leslie was just saying, is based on a forecast basis. So PG&E provides their best forecast of where they think market prices are going in the next year, as well as where they think their load will be in the next year. And this under collection that's playing through in rates this year from a poor forecast in the year prior was driven both because their forecast of costs was off and they were forecasting more load than they ultimately ended up having over the course of the year, particularly because of a more mild summer than they were expecting. So that's why this is all kind of coming to a head in our rates in this present year.
Another question, is the increased benchmark price of power purely the price of that power, or is it also RA?
It's
because PG&E doesn't have the same cost.
It's the latter. It's everything. It's all the rec attributes, GHG free and capacity costs, RA costs. So it's everything.
Yeah,
If I can chime in, understand what the drivers are there, because if in fact it's more RA, that's more going to be our cost, and they're not going to have that cost.
You should have sat in on audit and finance today. You should join us, Roy.
He's here to give the comments here.
Yes, we have, I'll just chime in here a little bit. Our biggest cost driver here for the next fiscal year is the cost of these attributes, whether that's renewable energy credits, RECs, or carbon-free attributes. PG&E might be in a better position than we are in terms of those attributes because they have the Diablo Canyon extension, they have hydro resources, we have a great hydro year. So all of these will generate these attributes for them at a fixed cost. They own these resources, so they don't have to go to the market and purchase them. So they are at advantage in that regard, while we have to go out to a very expensive market now to procure those attributes. And obviously, not on the capacity side, they have more resource, they have more existing capacity than we do. So they do also have an advantage there.
Okay.
We got about 15 minutes.
Okay, I will, this is nothing changed here, strategic plan, and then just quick mid-year highlights. You know, for the current fiscal year we're in, you guys could have joined us for the audit and finance committee, but we are having a great fiscal year, as I just showed you on that prior page, and targeting, almost $100 million of positive change in net position. We've completed the investment management diversification, so we have 3 external managers managing us on short-term as well as medium-term basis. We are now moving forward with implementing the updated rate-setting methodology for the next fiscal year. And then finally, as you all are aware from the last board meeting, which the board approved, we are moving forward with at least preparing for a possible prepay transaction by the end of this year.
Any questions for Nick
I'm
before
sorry.
we move on? Okay, thank you, Nick. Kim is up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Lay, the Director of Data and Technology. These slides might be new to you. This is the first time we're having data and technology as its own slides in the strategic plan. And so quick overview of data and technology. There's 2 parts to it. There's the data side, which we do the data warehouse platform. And we have our analytics dashboards and tools that we build out of that to help other teams make data-driven decisions on account services, programs, marketing, et cetera. And then there's the IT part of it. So all the IT side, IT management, software, hardware, the network, the office, conference rooms, and all that good stuff with security awareness and cybersecurity and making sure that we're staying safe as well with our equipment and software. And so a strategic plan, basically taking care of all the internal operations underneath the hood for technology and systems across all staff and software across PCE. And then some mid-year highlights. So we're doing a lot with the data platform. We've got a good solid base and foundation for the data warehouse, and we're really working on advancing our algorithms, working on refining all the dashboard tools, and really building up more tools for staff to use in order to get more data access to do insights on customer segmentation, on program metrics, and et cetera. And then on the IT side, we're doing a lot of streamlining with a lot of processes and procedures, really up-leveling on our security awareness, and then doing a lot of enhancements on the conference rooms that you've seen, when we started doing hybrid till now, as well as the internal conference rooms on the other side, and getting our office up to date on all the equipment and outfitting for the remote and hybrid situation for all staff. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Kim. Great. All right, thank you. Bring that back to me because I think I'm next. Thank you. All right, Nellie, would you like to do this or would you like me to cover it? All right, I will cover it. Okay, great. All right, so for organizational excellence, as you can see, we are on target with all of sort of the main buckets here. I think there will be more to say as we get here, just to talk about sort of what's been happening here. So I think you all know that we've been working very hard in HR to try and automate what had previously been a disparate function sprinkled across multiple folks in the agency to now under one umbrella. We did implement our Bamboo HRIS software in the fall. That has been working very well, sort of a one-stop shop for talent acquisition, as well as folks being able to log in, check their PTO, check their benefits and other sort of elements of HR. So it's a much more automated self-service and also reporting. We did complete a staff compensation study. We participated with, I believe it was 5 other CCAs through Mercer, which is a HR employment company that has worked with us in the past. And so that study was completed at the beginning of this year. We're now sifting and sorting through which levels of our staffing team might require some market comp adjustments. You will see that referenced in the budget when it comes before, I believe it'll come before the executive committee next month. And then to the full board for adoption at the end of June. We right now have a staff satisfaction survey underway. I believe that closes on May 15th. So just a couple more days. We will have the data for that to be, that we can share. I definitely will be sharing it as part of my review. So more on that coming up in June. You guys might remember the folks from Potrero Group from our board retreat. Their work is almost complete with us. So we've got a draft, what we're calling an organizational development roadmap. That's sort of under the PCE 2.0 strategy that touches many, many elements of our agency. This in particular is really focused on how we work, our systems, our technology, our processes, our policies, very much operationally focused. We will be sharing that with the board as well. That will become a pillar for this area as part of our next strategic plan. So that doesn't cover everything. It's really just about how we function as an internal team. We did hire a couple of months ago, as you all know, a director of innovation strategy. She came to us from MCE, and she's right now leading up a number of things, including our revenue diversification effort, our application to the CPUC to be an energy efficiency administrator, et cetera, et cetera. So she's been doing great work with us and does quite a lot of work with programs as well at the state level. You all know that we adopted our hybrid cost of service rate setting. We're working through that for the first time now with this budget cycle. It's going well. We will have an annual DEAI update coming to you in May. Going forward, the DEAI work will be integrated with the strategic plan. So all of that ultimately will come to you for updates together. Nellie and Brianna put together a great binder of reference materials for all of you and for our new board members. Nellie, I will say Tom asked for a 30-minute orientation, so we'll follow up on that. Director McCune, I should say. And that's going well, and updates are underway. So a lot going on with organizational excellence. It's been, I think, a very good year, and happy to answer questions. All right, so if there are no questions, that concludes the strategic plan mid-year update. And can turn it back over to you, maybe for public comment?
Sure, absolutely.
Is there any public comment?
Doesn't look like we have any public comment. Going on next to any committee members' reports. Public. All right.
Actually, one report. We have our new, in Menlo Park, we have our new Bellhaven Community Campus opening, a grand opening ceremony on Saturday. And everyone's welcome to attend. We've got, I should have everything in front of me. They're only able to say it better than I can, but we've got a new microgrid. It's also 100% sustainable. We've got lots of solar panels over all our parking. Our pool is, solar is heated with electric heat pumps, and it's a amazing place. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great.
Anyone else? All right. Let's go ahead and adjourn.
I believe so.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everybody, for coming.